You got my glass, my bottle of water. Well, that was great. I appreciate all these fine pictures that play those little old tunes. I'm no Hobie Carmichael, you know. Tasting, tasting. All right. That's a good job, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Well, as the old joke is, I'm happy to be here this year. In fact, I'm happy to be anywhere. I don't know. I think I'll sit down. I got back trouble among other things. And get my age, you know, people have sympathy for you. You still living, they say? I thought he was dead. I thought I'd talk a little while. Excuse me. And tell some little stories about Chet and I. I'm about to run out of them. I've done this 3 or 4 years, so one time, let's see, I got a list. One time we was out on the road, and it was the next morning we was going to the airport, and we was in 2 cars equipment where it was in a van. And Chet and I were in a car, and I was driving, I always drove, and he didn't talk much early in the morning like most people. And he was sitting there on the driver's side, and I was driving, and we was going longer, and I felt pretty good. I got a good night's sleep for a change. And I was driving longer, and I went, Chet looked over at me and said, I don't like to hear whistling early in the morning. I said, oh, I'm sorry, Chet. So that ended my whistling. I had to really be careful because you know how you whistle under your breath, and he didn't like it. Another funny thing happened, and you ladies, I want to use a 4-letter word here, but it's nothing that you haven't heard before. We was going to sound check once, a guy, they always come over and pick Chet and I up. The group would go early, and when we checked in a hotel, well, they'd go into the auditorium, and they'd set up, the drummer would set up, and amps, my Chet's amp, they'd set it up and all that and get ready to go, and then they'd come and get Chet and I, and I'd help him with his guitar and whatever, and go to his room and get his guitar and pack it out for him. And car pick us up to the lobby. And one day we was up east, up there in Yankee Land somewhere, and I saw her aggravated about something. I was complaining, and so we get in this car, and I said something other shit, and Chet turned around and said, I wish you wouldn't say that word. I said, I hate to hear that word. I just hate it. And I said, well, I'm sorry, Chet. I shouldn't have said it. I said, I'll try to break myself. Saying it is just a habit. So, in about 2 or 3 weeks, we was back in Nashville, and I went over to his office to have lunch with him, and he was on the phone talking to somebody. And I said, no, where we nearly got done. So when he got through talking on the phone, he hung it up and said, shit. I didn't say anything. But it made me feel better. I had a little company there. One more story I'll tell, and then we'll move on to something else. We was having sound check one time, and he was singing that song about his dad, and I always sat behind him on his right, and I was playing the fills behind him like I always do. Generally, I try to play the same thing, but I happened to play a fill that I used to play behind the Lubin brothers, and I heard Chet play it on old records, on Lubin Brothers records and other records. I'd heard him play it many times. So I played it, and he stopped singing, and he turned around to me and said, "Don't ever play that lick again. I hate that thing." All right. Boy, he's sort of a steel guitar sounding lick, and he didn't like anything to sound country on his stuff. I mean, he didn't hate country music, but he didn't want to be country. He wanted to be what he was, you know. And so, anyway, let's see, I don't want to do this too long. I thought I'd talk about the CGP. I know everybody's interested in that. And I brung one with me. And Michael's going to bring it up, and we're going to take a look at it, and I'm going to tell you about it. I'm real proud of this, folks. That's it. Oh, I hurt my arm last night. You'll have to excuse me. I'll be grunting a little bit. But that's what it looks like. They've done a good job of Gretchen. I started working on this, Gretchen and I, about 1.5 years ago. I went out. First of all, I never got to play Chet's. But Jimmy Atkins had it for about 20 years, Chet's nephew, and he knew everything about it, so I'd call him all the time and ask him questions, and I got where I felt like I knew as much about the guitar as I could learn without actually playing it. And the history of that guitar, Gretchen made that first one for Chet in 1956. I'm sure it was his idea because he was always trying to get a guitar to sustain more. Back in the old days, those damn guitars they made were arch tops and no sustain. You play a chord down in here and it would just die away on you. And that's the reason he put sound post in his Yandell because he got more sustain from doing it. You know, they put sound post in fiddles, but it's different with a guitar. It's for a different purpose. So Chet did that, and as we all know, that Yandell is one of the greatest guitars ever. So anyway, I'm sure that he asked Gretchen to do this. When you got a solid top, of course, you all know this as well as I do, you don't have any feedback, and the notes are even down the neck, like your bass note. You don't have any hot notes. Like, you know, if you play an L5 or something plugged in, you'll have an A and a B flat note. It'll be louder because it's a resonance to the body. Well, a guitar like this doesn't have that, solves that problem. These guitars really got a lot of sustain. They really sustain great up through here. And so after Chet got it, it was just a regular, it was a mono guitar, it wasn't stereo. So either he got the idea to do it or Ray Butts did. But Ray Butts built him a stereo pickup. It was one pickup up here. A stereo, for you uninformed, it's got two calls and it's split. The treble strings at one call and a bass strings other call. When you run stereo, the bass strings come out this jack here and the treble comes out. And that's a switch. It switches from stereo to mono. Mono, just regulars in the center. If you don't play stereo, you do that. You have to plug another cord in because when you plug this, I'm getting away from Chet's guitar, but I'll go ahead and tell you. This is the way this one works, and it's basically the same thing as the way Chet did. You plug in this second guitar cord, what happens is it disconnects everything in the guitar except this and this. It's real simple. this is the volume of the bass strings. It changes to that. This is the volume to the treble strings. So if you're running two outputs, you can balance between the two. You know, if your bass strings are too loud and you're playing a tune, you just turn them down. You know. But anyway, it works real well. And Chet's had the neck on his was a traditional Grace neck. Back then they were pretty narrow. And y'all, I know y'all seen this interview where he said, well, he used to use a narrow neck because he used his thumb a lot. As he got to playing classics and all that, well, he liked a wider neck. A wider neck is better because when you play fingerstyle, you use a lot of open strings, and if you don't have string spaced wide, they get into each other and they have a rattling with your fingers and all that. The width at the nut on this guitar is same as the Nashville Classic. The taper is the same as the Gibson Country Gentleman. I've got 2 or 3 of those, and the one that I played with Chet for about 7 or 8 years, I measured the neck, took the taper off of it, it's a 12 fret. So that's what this neck is. It's a great neck. And you got the Nashville Classic or the Grace Country Gentleman here, and then the Gibson Country Gentleman down through here. And excuse me. On the back, it put the logo CGP up there, which I thought was a nice touch. It's a short scale, which is what all 6120s are, which is at 24.5. It's a totally different guitar than the Country Gentleman. If you expect this guitar to sound like Country Gentleman, you're going to be disappointed. It's not supposed to. It's different. The pickups are different. It's a shorter scale, and it's made on the inside the same, but still. It's got its own sound. It's a good partner for the Country Gentleman. And so I think everybody's excited about it. I love it. Since they sent me 2 of these. When they build a prototype, do these guitars, since I've been involved with them, they send me a prototype and I sit around and play it, see if there's anything wrong with it, need to change it and everything, because that's the way you get a good guitar. You have to live with it. And I've had this one for about, well, I don't know, 6 months or so. And I'll let Craig Dobbins take this and keep it for 2 or 3 months. It's good to have a second opinion, you know. And so I wanted him to play it. And he recorded with it and this and that. And it's got larger frets in it too, which makes it way easier. I don't like those small frets because they wear out easy, and then you gotta do all that. So anyway, let's see, Mike, have I forgot anything? I took a handle out of this. I started, I don't like to put one of these guitars with a handle in it and the case comes down, hit the handle and go in it, get it out tune and all that. So I always take a handle out when I put it in the case and then put it back in. Is there any questions? Yes,
Paul, could you tell us about the time Les Paul threw away Chet's thumb pick?
Well, what much to tell. They did that album together, you know. And when you do an album, the record companies want you to promote it. So they dreamed up the idea of us playing the Bottom Line, which was in New York. It was a big club, famous club. Then it's over, I forget what. It's over around Greenwich Village where all those nuts are. You have to be careful walking down the street over there. Anyway, that club is closed up now, by the way. But they booked it for Chet and Les to play for that Chester Lester album. I never will forget it. We got up there and we got over to the club for a sound check. You always got to have a sound check. We got over about 2 o'clock. And they had one nice dressing room and one sort of funky dressing room. Well, Les got there first. He got the best dressing room. Chet said, that old son of a bitch got the best dressing room. So anyway, you know, you play with, you play with Les Paul, it's like a football game. Who can score first, you know? So anyway, we did sound check and all that, and that night we did the show, and I think Les went out and did his, did part, if I remember correctly, it's been so long. And then Chet come out and played a while, and then they both came out, I believe is the way it was. Well, when they were playing something like Avalon or whatever it was, that album, Les is always, he acts like a monkey. You know, he's always cutting up and trying to put you off stride and all that. And he was wearing Chet out. Chet was trying to play, and he was always digging him in the side or something, you know, like that. Finally, he just reached over and got his thumb and just picked and just stripped it off and threw it out the hole. He thought that was funny. You know? As Les Paul. And I remember that we were in New York before this, they ever did that album. Chet got the idea to do it, and so it seemed like we were, I don't know where Chet and I flew to New York just to see Les Paul, where we were playing Carnegie Hall or something. But anyway, Les came over to our hotel, Chet's suite, and I had my Haskell Hale acoustic, classic. That was back before Chet started playing electric nylon, before it came along. And so Les, they started talking tunes and this and that, you know, well, why don't we do this, why don't we do that? So Les took my Haskell Hale and he started playing that Django stuff, and he did, in about 5 minutes, he wrecked the top of that, about 20 licks. It looked like you took a nail and just done that. And there wasn't a scratch on it, you know. Anyway. Any more questions? That was a long answer. See, I've already told everything. Y'all don't have any more questions. Any more questions about the CTP?
Would you play a little bit, Paul?
No, I can't. I hurt my shoulder last night. I've got a tendon pulled in my shoulder. I can't hardly make a cord.
For all y'all, it's my fault. We went fishing not too long ago, and he was holding my boat, and he got away from him and pulled a muscle. So
Yeah. It would have happened sooner or later.
no.
A question, we have a lady in the back, or a man. Yes, sir.
Just curious, are they planning on releasing that model as a?
They're gonna run it, they've already made them, but there's only gonna be 75 made in 2008. It's gonna be a limited production.
That's like the one on the cover of Fingerstyle Guitar.
Yeah, it's
Similar to that.
yeah, it's a reissue, as close as we can make it. And TV Jones built the pickups and the wiring. And by the way, that Chet's guitar, and getting back to that, Jimmy Atkins, Chet gave that to his brother Lowell, and it was extremely heavy guitar because of that, the top on it in the center, under the bridge, it was close to a ½ inch thick, and then it tapered off to the sides. It was, I don't think it was hand carved, they did on one of those pantographs, I'm sure. Over to the side, it was about 1/4 of an inch. So the guitar was really heavy, time you put a vibro on it, the pickups and all that. So Lowell kept it for maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 years, and he gave it back to Chet. And then Jimmy, who was Lowell's son and Chet's nephew, Chet gave it to him for a wedding present. So he kept it for about 20 years. And he told me that he was so paranoid about somebody breaking in the house and stealing it. Every time he'd go somewhere, he'd put it in the trunk of the car. And he said it was so heavy that he just didn't enjoy playing it at all. And so after Chet died, a couple of years afterwards, he decided to sell it. So they auctioned it off at Guernsey's auction house in New York City. people, when they auction things off, they don't tell who bought it, buy anything, you know. So I've tried to, and a friend of mine, he also tried to locate whoever had it. Somebody's got it. I don't know why they keep it a secret. What's the big deal? I mean, it's just a guitar. But Jimmy told me that at about 3 or 4 weeks after it was auctioned, somebody called and wanted them to write a letter about it. And for some reason, he didn't do it, and they didn't remember who it was called. But he thought it was somebody in the States, a music store or something. So,
Do you know what it went for?
like about 49,000 maybe. But I was watching it when it seemed like it was less than, I'm sure these other people was watching it too, it seemed like it was less than 50. Anyone else? Yeah.
Oh, I got a couple of questions. The weight of the original, you said was real heavy. Do you recall what it weighed, and how does that compare to the weight of the one that's coming out now?
Well, when you say real heavy, don't you think about 10 pounds?
Yeah, well, I think of the Gibson Country Gentleman, which is a killer to me. I have one, I rarely play it, so
You think that's heavy?
yeah.
It's not a light guitar, but it's almost impossible to build a guitar and put that vibrola, the time you put all that stuff on it and you brace it on the inside and build it where it's worth a damn, you got a maple neck and metal keys and all that, you got weight.
Yeah, mine's an
Now,
80.
this guitar is not all that heavy because it's the 6120, it's a different animal. And
Okay, I have the 89 Country Gentleman, and I have the 6120 also. There's a lot of difference.
well, you understand it.
Yeah. And I wanted to know, I heard you say that you like to remove that fixed Bigsby handle. Does it?
I remove it when I put it in a case and
Does
if
it-
I'm going somewhere.
Does it cause any problem, the compression?
Well, it makes it go out of tune. You got to tune when you get there, wherever you're going. And I don't like to tune, folks.
Can your son play that?
Yeah, he's a pretty good player, but he just wants to play when he and I play. And that's all I play anymore. I'm retired, and I give him lessons, and he's doing great. And we play. He comes over Sunday morning, and we sit around and pick and this and that. So it's fun. Anybody else have a question?
Paul, does the short or long scale make much of a difference?
Yes, it does.
Could you explain?
Well, a longer scale, I think, plays better in tune just because it's a longer scale, down the neck. Another thing too, it depends on your touch. If you squeeze a neck, a lot of guys would squeeze the strings when they make a chord, and they'll bend the strings out of tune, you know. If you got a light touch like somebody like Ray Cummings or somebody, you don't have a problem. But the frets are wider apart, so you can make chords down the neck, and that's one thing that Chet liked. And he played short scale, and D'Angelico was short scale, and all those 6120s was including that solid top. So in '58 they made the. If you ever thought of this, you probably haven't, but the '58 Country Gentleman had a lot of features of that solid top. That they, if you think about it, it had a solid top to it, short scale. And the fake F holes, it was a lot similar to that solid top 6120. And then when they built the '59, that was the best thing they ever did. They nailed it on that. And Chet liked the 0 fret because guitars over in Europe had that. I think in Django's McAferry's had a 0 fret. So he liked that feature, so he had to put that on there, on that '59 with a long scale. And that guitar, I think, is the best guitar that Gretsch ever made. The quality wasn't too good, but they had that sound, buddy. And this, one they're making now, I think is, not because I had something to do with it, but I don't know another guitar on the market that's the better for sound and playability and all that. Anybody else? What color was the old green hair? Well, that's about all I got, folks, and I appreciate everybody showing up. I forgot to thank Palmer Moore for doing this. I'm sorry, I never thought of that. Thank you.